young people find. So I'm going to sit here.
Zach, calm down.
So I need you're a fashionable guy, right?
I don't think so. You and I dress the exact same, so.
Let's go together.
What matters?
I've never worn this sweater before.
I feel like, yeah, the blue. It's like not the same blue, but it's enough to like constantly.
Okay. Oh yeah, I guess.
Also, next week we're getting dinner, by the way.
What?
We're getting dinner. Hey Alex, is Matt coming?
I don't know. Do you want to?
Matt, this would be an interesting book. I'm just gonna put it down and hope for
Really?
I mean, I would love to see his reaction to this entire day. Can't wait. All right. I think we're live right now. Yeah. Well, great. I'm gonna be up here. Is it broke? That's really sad. What about taking it from here? I already took them. Are there any other remotes?
You made it in time. Proud of you.
I'm here too.
Oh, you know. Are we adjourning?
Yes, Jordan. The 25th.
It's my only birthday wish. Actually, I have a lot.
Looking for Matt?
That's what I thought. Yeah. Go wherever you want.
Good. How are you, Senator-elect?
What? Okay.
I doubt it. Though. I know I didn't get one.
It needs click.
When Landon speaks.
I guess you don't really need it.
It's much bigger back here.
Oh, it is.
See all of it.
I like it.
It's kind of spooky.
Calling the meeting to order.
Go back. Sweep.
Would the chief of staff please call a roll?
President Lama.
Present.
Vice President Schneider.
Present.
Treasurer Woods.
Present.
Commissioner Timko. Present. Senator Seco. Present. Senator Hipwell. Senator Graber.
Present.
Senator Owens.
Present.
Senator Rises. Present. Senator Torno. Present. Senator DeVille. Proxy. Senator Holbrook. Senator Madison.
Present.
Senator Cruz.
Present.
Commissioner Evans. Senator Jones.
Present.
Senator Ashley.
Proxy.
Commissioner Romlo. Commissioner Malone.
Proxy.
Commissioner Okuku. Senator Hartman.
Present.
Senator Ring. Senator Smith.
Present.
Commissioner Schnook.
Present.
Senator Ayers. Senator Neff. Senator Miller, or Commissioner Miller. Senator Hashbandi.
Present.
Senator Zimmerman. Senator Soto Diaz.
Present.
Commissioner Frade. Senator Myrich.
Present.
Senator Hardy. Senator Baker.
Proxy.
Senator Adams.
Present.
Senator Kemper. Commissioner Fillinger.
Present.
Commissioner Lenny Morris. Senator Sloat.
Present.
Senator Jackson. Senator Sponhauer.
Present.
Senator Holtkamp. Senator Plotz.
Present.
Commissioner Harder.
Present.
Senator Bunie.
Present.
Senator Heliopolis.
Present.
Senator Cromley. Senator Miller.
Present.
Senator Deering.
Present.
Commissioner Burke. Senator Hurd. Senator Thomas. Senator Kiefer. All limits there. Commissioner Clear.
Present.
Senator Kelly.
Present.
Senator Williams.
Present.
And Clerk Marachka. We have all.
Thank you. We'll move on to student speak out. If there are any students here to speak out this evening, I ask that you please speak for 3 minutes. Please then state your name, place of residency, year, and major. Are there any students here to speak out this evening? Seeing none, we'll move forward to presentations. We have 2 presenters tonight. Our first presenter is Liz Shaw. She is the chair of the Citizens Connectivity Committee, and Senator Zach Rises will do her introduction. Where is Senator Rises? There he is.
Yeah, hi everyone. Liz Shaw, who is coming up to the front of the room, is a 5th-generation Appalachian fiddler, known for her contributions to traditional music as a performer, teacher, and co-host of a nationally distributed public television series about American folk music. However, her secret life has been that of a community organizer, which landed her a spot on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart, hosting, of all people, John Oliver in her home in Meigs County during the taping. Liz has successfully fought corporal punishment in daycares and ill-advised nuclear waste dumps in North Carolina, along with union-busting legislation in Ohio. She also developed an award-winning program addressing food security in Athens County, Ohio, and, as we'll be talking about today, founded the Citizens Connectivity Committee, which hosted a nationally recognized broadband summit featuring one of the 5 FCC commissioners. It was
Mignon Clavin in July.
Last July. For her tenacious stance on bringing broadband to rural America, she's been featured in articles, blogs, and podcasts, and was named a 2018 Fire Starter by the National Rural Assembly. Everybody, Liz Shaw.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's start out with defining connectivity. What does that encompass? It's landlines, cell phones, internet, even radio communication systems for first responders. Let's first address the internet, specifically broadband. It is defined as 25 megabits per second down and 3 megabits per second up. Fun fact, half of rural Americans do not have access to broadband, and that's over 10 million households. 46 million have only one provider, leaving them no choices about services and costs. In terms of broadband, Appalachian, Ohio is one of the worst regions in the United States for broadband percentages. You, my friends, are in Appalachia, Ohio. How many of you knew that? Yes, okay. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. We need you. We need you. Let me give you some statistics. Percentages of broadband in a county. Franklin County, 99.8% of that county has broadband. Athens, 63.8%. Most of that's around the university and town, of course. Lake County, anyone here from Lake County? All right, you have 99.5%. Benton County, 38.9%. Lucas County, 99.7%. Toledo folks here? Lucas County, yay. Meigs County, 40.6%. Cuyahoga County, 98.6% of broadband. Gallia County, 24.4%. Butler County, 98.5%. Perry County, 26%. Delaware County, you have 97.6% broadband in your county. Harrison County has 15%. Hamilton County, 100%. Monroe over the hill, goose egg, none. No broadband in Monroe County, just around the corner. But connectivity as a whole is losing ground. We're not going forward. Cell phone reception is spotty. Landlines are a nightmare. And the MARC systems, which stands for Multi-Agency Radio Communication Systems, I never get that right, that serves your first responders. There's dead zones all over our counties in this part of the state. To add insult to injury, there are thousands of miles of dark fiber. Who knows what dark fiber is? Yes, it's wires that have been run that have never been lit up. Thousands of miles in Southeast Ohio. The carriers did not build out the last mile. It was supposed to connect schools to universities, rural health clinics to hospitals, government agencies to government agencies. Nothing done. In fact, a lot of that dark fiber runs right through my hayfield. I've watched them do it. And my county commissioner said, Liz, it goes down to Bradbury Road, turn left as you're going right into Pomeroy, and the wire is coiled around the pole, connecting nothing to nothing. Carriers have been given millions of dollars from Connect America funds and other subsidies, but they refuse and fail to deliver the goods time and time again. They're sued. They're fined. It's the cost of doing business. They prefer to pay those fines and those lawsuits instead of spending the money to bring us in Southeast Ohio and other rural parts of the nation broadband. They don't make a lot of money in sparsely populated places. They don't make a lot of money in sparsely populated places that they claim they can't reach because of geography. I'm here to bust a myth. Here's the myth. Well, y'all live in Appalachia. You got them hills and them hollers and them roads that go nowhere. What do you expect, people? Move if you want broadband. Do you know what? That's a lie. Technology has come to the point now that it's not a geographical barrier anymore to live in hills and hollers. There's something called TV white space that's very exciting. It works very well in forested areas like we have, and it works very well in places that have hills and hollers. There's also leveraging vertical structures like water towers, shooting a magic beam over to Farmer Brown's silo, which transfers the magic fairy dust that makes broadband, I'm not quite sure how it works, up to the water tower over the schoolhouse. And then you can catch some fiber and run it where you want. It can be done. You know, it was really an eye-opening thing when I realized that not having broadband here is not a technology problem like I've been lied to and told over and over. It's a political problem. That's what it is. Those in power, until they decide to work with each other and work for their constituents and stop taking hundreds of thousands of dollars from carriers in exchange for shielding them for providing me and these gals here and other people in this room who live in Appalachia broadly. Until that happens, we have a political problem. But you know, that's only if we rely on politicians. Fortunately, there's something called community broadband. It's a thing. You can get municipalities, counties, cooperatives to provide their own. Charge a subscription fee, and you have broadband now in your communities. I'm not going to talk much about that. I'm going to give you a name of an organization you should look into. The Institute for Local Self-Reliance. They are the champions of community broadband, and it is the answer until the politicians get their heads on straight, until the carriers stop bilking the United States government out of millions of dollars. It is the answer. But it has a threat as well. 20+ states have enacted barrier laws to make it illegal for communities to provide their own broadband. 20, and I think one more states. Ohio hasn't yet. If Ohio does, you will see me in the streets. That ain't happening. That ain't happening. I expect every one of you out there with me. Anyway, so that's the problem. It's a political problem, but there are ways to fix it through communities and through municipalities and that sort of thing. Now, at our summit, we had representatives from Portman, Brown, Capito Mansion, the senators. We had representatives from congressmen of these districts. We had state legislators from West Virginia and from Ohio. We had a representative from Governor Kasich's office. But the people there that made the most difference were my delegations from 8 Appalachian counties who sent county commissioners or heads of EMS or school superintendents to speak to Commissioner Flagler. She took notes. Sometimes her jaw dropped. I have photos to prove it. She had tears in her eyes several times. She went straight back to Congress a week later and she testified before Congress and said, it's a mess. And these carriers have been charged with giving rural broadband to rural people, and they aren't doing it. She knows our situation, and she's one of our big supporters. But I want to just share a few stories of that day, brief ones, and then I'm going to allow these young ladies here to share a couple of stories as well of their own. A soccer coach collapsed on the field in a small rural community not far from here. There was no cell service. Couldn't summon an ambulance. They went banging on doors. Can we use your phone? It's out. It's out. It's not working. My landline's out. By the time someone drove up the hill and got a cell signal and got an ambulance there, the soccer coach had passed away on the field in front of his little team of 4th and 5th graders and his 2 little girls. The head of the EMS for that county testified before the commissioner that day. He also was an EMT. And he said, if I had an ambulance there within 45 minutes to this day, I believe I could have saved his life. It took almost 2 hours to get that ambulance there because of no cell service and no landlines working. You see, little rain showers can knock out landlines here. You don't realize that. But where I live, if it rains really hard, folks around me who have landlines don't have landlines anymore. Because they do not fix these little green boxes that run along the highway. I have one in my hayfield too, right under the dark fiber. Those boxes rust, and they have hinges that come off, and those components get wet, and they short out. And so they make complaints to the Public Utilities Commission. They call in. It takes weeks sometimes to get these repaired. No landlines. Landlines are also in the ditches, uncovered, running down the road, cut by mowing equipment, snow removal equipment. Trustees from townships are out there taping them together with electrical tape and reburying something. Is that their job? No, I don't think so. Did they get millions of dollars from Connect America? No, they did not. They're little trustees with little tiny stipends covering up for these telegiants. Other public safety issues brought to the commissioner's attention that day were 911 calls getting routed to the wrong counties. It's just chaos up there. The other county would have to radio in to the other county, minutes lost, communications confused. Think about what that does. An EMT testified there are dead zones in his community. When he gets someone in an ambulance, he loses contact with the hospital. They're not getting vital medical data to the hospital to prepare for that patient, and the hospital's not able to tell them what to be doing until they get there. He says it's frightening. A deputy sheriff said, you know, Commissioner, if I were to ride into some of the communities and accidentally shoot myself in the foot, I would bleed out before I could get up the hill to get a signal or to get my radio to work. Our first responders' radios don't even work. Right here in Athens County, right here in this county. If you're out on a picnic somewhere and somebody gets hurt, good luck. The assistant principal stays at his school till 9 o'clock so the kids can use the Wi-Fi and get their homework done. He doesn't go home. He leaves a change of clothes there, and a cot is in his office, and he spends the night. He's so tired, he's been there since 5 o'clock, gets up, drives an hour and a half to work. He says he just stays there. Parents send sacked lunches and sacked suppers for those children so they can do their homework. One county said their schools frequently lose their signals for hours at a time. Kids are on timed tests. They have to stop, do it again. They're researching, march back down the hall, let's go do math on the blackboard. Backlogs of assignments. Parent after parent talked about taking their kids to McDonald's to get their homework done. Wi-Fi, free Wi-Fi. Can you imagine an 11-year-old researching on the internet and then having to write an essay in the middle of McDonald's? What kind of learning environment is that for Appalachian children? Do we do worse on tests? Yes. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Children not having the resources they need and having to leave home in the evening and go to McDonald's and try to study for tests and do their online work. Libraries, God bless them, libraries leave their Wi-Fi on all night long. You drive by the Athens Library here in town, you will see the parking lot full at wee hours of the morning. Kids getting homework done. Business people trying to catch up on orders. They didn't get finished at work, they can't go home, there's no Wi-Fi. So they're parked in the parking lots. One Hocking College student said she has to sit in front or park in front of the admin building to get Wi-Fi because she has none in her apartment. Nothing that she can afford, no gizmos that she can afford to make it work. She has fallen asleep in her car and been awakened by cars driving up and slamming the doors at 7 o'clock the next morning. That ain't safe. That's not good for scholarship. Another young woman in Washington County is confined to a wheelchair. She testified that she had been getting worse with her health. And so the school arranged for her to do online courses to fulfill her credit requirements. They changed up the program and said, take this course instead, and we'll get you graduated this year. She got home, she cannot download any of the assignments, she can't download all these files, she cannot do interactive work, she's out. She had already lined up telecommuting jobs with different companies that were going to hire her. She had to call them and say, I'm not graduating when I thought. It's a broadband issue. Well, by the way, what is your broadband? Oh, well, you can't work for us. That's not going to work. So there's some dreams thwarted. There's some talent wasted because carriers get money from Connect America funds that they don't spend where they're supposed to spend them. They get slapped on the wrist because politicians get money in their pocket. I'm starting to get this. I'm a little mad, if you can tell. Anyway, I can go on and on. I'll tell you one more. There is a university administrator, and she was telling me that in rural Kenya in 2008, when she was there working on her dissertation, she had better connectivity in the bush in Kenya in 2008 than she has in Meigs County, Ohio in 2018. No cell phone, no internet, no landlines if it rains. And she says it causes her all kinds of problems. So I brought two people who have had these problems. And I think that you're going to be interested in hearing them. We're going to just talk for a few more minutes and then we'll let you all move on. The first person is Heron Lynn Scott. Heron is an honors student from Federal Hocking, and despite abysmal connectivity, Heron has still managed to serve as her 4-H club's president for the last 4 years. She participates in FFA and BPA on a state level, and she represented her peers in Washington, D.C. in a meeting with Senator Portman. She also addressed the Connectivity Summit. She opened the town hall that night and was the warm-up act for an FCC commissioner, who still asks about you, by the way. And she got a standing ovation. The commissioner didn't, although she was wonderful. But Heron got a standing ovation because Heron told her story. Heron was recently featured in a national podcast about teens in rural communities with no internet. And she has been sharing about her situation every chance she gets to others who are as concerned about the situation as she is. So, Heron, why don't you stand up here for a minute and tell folks what you deal with on a daily basis. Yes.
I'm Heron Lynn Scott. I am a sophomore at Federal Hocking High School. I'm 15 years old. Who all has been on the internet today? Show of hands. Who has been on the internet? Okay, so that's most of you. As I said, I go to Federal Hocking High School, which is a rural high school in Stewart, Ohio. Our poverty rate is 75%. So that means 75% of our students are at or below the line of poverty. Our graduation rate is 98%. We have had 2 students not graduate high school, both due to pregnancy, since I have been in high school. Yet, I would say roughly half of our students have either unreliable or no broadband in their house. So how is this working? How can 98% of our students graduate without broadband? Well, the answer is simple. Our school was kind enough to provide us with Chromebooks that we take for the year and bring home. When you are a senior, you can purchase them and have a computer for whatever you're doing after high school. Juniors can take them home for the summer, but sophomores and freshmen incoming have to leave them at school. This is great. We get to access during lunch in the library whenever we want. However, our school can't help us when we go home to no Wi-Fi whatsoever. So yes, you can save these documents offline, but you can't get on Google Classroom. And you can't access that practice test that your teachers have just assigned for you. You can't access the state tests that help influence our graduation. You can't practice. You have no idea what you're up against, and if you want to cram it in after school, that's great, but not every student has the option or the transportation to be able to stay after school. Appalachian, Ohio has stereotypically been one of the underrepresented areas of our country. We are a statistic to the government, and yes, that does affect us. If we want to succeed, if we want to compete with our growing nation, we have to be given an equal chance as people in urban areas. I know people who won't be attending a university. They'll be going to college online so they can stay home for various reasons. Not all of them are going to be able to do that. Some of them are going to have to go straight into the workforce. Some of them are going to have to attend alternative plans simply because they can't stay home. We as a nation have to be able to support each other. Regardless of political standpoint, regardless of socioeconomic background, we have to be able to help each other enough to give each other a fighting chance at success. Think of someone who's trying to get their degree online and give their family a better life. Think of someone in the military trying to contact people back home. It's no longer an option to live without connectivity, and it's completely unfair to expect high school level students to say, I'm sorry, you can't have that job. You know why? Because we can't connect you to the people you need to be connected to in order to achieve those goals.
Erin was talking about the incredible graduation rate at Fed Hoc, even though they have no connectivity. What she left out is that those kids stay after school, they go in at lunch, they do like Erin does and gets transported to town to her grandmother's house. They are always trying to find a place to connect. And Erin is one of my music students. It's hard to call Erin sometimes because the phone doesn't work. And I asked her one time, I said, why do I have so much trouble getting in touch with you, Erin? I mean, is your phone going in and out? It's a cell phone. She goes, no, Liz, kind of tell me ahead when you're going to call. Because there's a certain board that I stand on my back deck and can hold and get the bars to get your call. That's, you talk about, think about that. If that kind of graduation rate with those kind of obstacles, who are these people? Brilliant, smart, hardworking, persistent Appalachian kids. Don't you forget that. We got a lot of guts down here it's not a level playing field. And we're playing as well as we're playing, and they keep moving the goalpost, and we're still keeping up like that. Yeah, that's great. I've got another one for you here. I want to introduce you Miss Lila Gagne. She will share her challenges as a senior honors student at Athens High, where she's involved in Key Club, National Honor Society, the Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies Club, and she's the business manager of the high school newspaper. Lila was also featured in the national podcast that Erin was in, and Lila was featured recently in Atlantic Monthly's online magazine, City Lab. They interviewed her about what it's like to be a rural kid with no connectivity in this world. She lives in Meigs County and has quite a bit of challenges with broadband. By the way, she will be a Bobcat this time next year, as she was just accepted into the, what's it called? The EDEP Scripps School of Journalism. Yay! Where she plans to study, get this, strategic communications. How to communicate. Thank you, Lila.
Okay, so my name is Lila Gagne, and I'm a senior at Athens High School. I live in Meigs County, Ohio, and yes, we do lack broadband internet access. I have relied on mobile capabilities and my cellular data plan for 6 years. So I shared 5 gigs of data with my mother, and that would last me roughly a week and a half. My data renews the 13th of every month, so I couldn't get my tenants in. I have stayed at friends' houses, Athens Public Library. I have stayed at a Taco Bell late at night, and no, not just because they have tacos that are really delicious, but because they have free internet. So I'm just going to brief you a little bit on some of the things that high school students have to go through. We have Google Classroom, Google Slides, Google Docs, Google Sheets. We have Infinite Campus class websites, and if you took OU classes in high school like I did, you also have Blackboard, your student email, and all the student centers. That's what I had to do, all of this. So I took English 1510 Writing and Rhetoric. How many of you have taken that? Show of hands. Okay. I mean, it's a basic class. You're nodding your head, yes? Yeah. So, how many, okay, you, because you're nodding your head, how many major papers would you say you had to write?
At least 10.
Yeah, exactly. So, 10 major papers, you have minor assignments, minor essays, assignments on Blackboard, and I typed it all on this, 2 thumbs. And I got an A in the class. Just saying.
Yeah. Good for you. She has no thumbs left, but.
Yeah, no. So in middle school, you take the basic typing computer keyboarding class. Well, I think I can type faster with my 2 thumbs than I can with my hands, which is kind of an accomplishment, not really, but it shouldn't be one. I'm going to lose my words here. So yeah. I would urge you to think about students. You're all students. I see a lot of you have computers. I also don't have a computer. So I put all my trust in this. And electronics glitch, iPhones glitch. And I'm going to tell you a little story. So I was waking up one morning. My phone was working perfectly fine. I was getting ready to go into town. I checked the time, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a shower, I'm gonna get dressed. Did all that, got out of the shower, clicked my phone, and I get this little notification that says, iPhone disabled, connect to iTunes. Now that's a really simple fix, really simple. All you have to do is connect to a laptop with iTunes and Wi-Fi. But wait, I don't have either of those. My heart drops because all of my academics, all of my apps, everything that I need for school is on here. Luckily, I found somebody who had a computer that I could do. It took me about 5 hours. Yeah, that's my story. I would just like to urge you, please think about the students that don't have the privilege I had, because I have worked really hard to not let this situation define my academic life. Really hard. Thank you.
Thank you for your interest in this issue. It really is truly a matter of prosperity or poverty, success or failure, and as I've told you, even life or death in Southeast Ohio. So that's all of our presentation.
So I'd just like to add, we are here for the students. We do have a bill that we are voting on tonight about increasing broadband access to Southeast Ohio. But I would open the floor if anyone has any questions for about 10 minutes or so. And go ahead, Senator Hajavandi.
I am from.
You're from Mexico?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I completely agree with them. Unless you live on the main road, unless you live on 124, unless you live in Pomeroy, or Middleton, or Buffalo, or Racine, or Syracuse, unless you live on those main roads, you will not have broadband. I have been very fortunate to have broadband because I live on 124. And I pity that everyone else was saying Columbia Township and Sunny Township was able to get broadband. And it is also appalling because I've seen that. I've seen that.
The fiber.
The fiber, yeah.
No,
exactly. I know that. I don't have a question. I'm just here to commend you so much for what you do. I just encourage you to keep doing what you do. And I hope you do amazing.
That's great. Well, and to your point, you know, in the 1840s, early 1840s, they built, well, even a little before, but they built over 1,000 miles of canals in this state. When it comes to Athens, they had a few sticks of dynamite, some mules, some strong backs, pickaxes, and shovels. And it connected Ohio to the rest of the state. It connected the state. Southeast Ohio was connected through these canals. And then the state was connected to the United States, and then we were connected to the world through canals. They did that with pickaxes and shovels and mules in the 1840s. You tell me that they can't put a spool of fiber on a truck and head down 681? Well, obviously they can, because it runs across my hayfield and it's dark. So you've seen the fiber. It's all over. It's not lit up.
And what's even worse, I live in Rutherford Township. My grandmother lives on the upper side of the road. She cannot get broadband.
Yeah. There's no rhyme or reason for it.
Our next door neighbors get broadband on weekend. Because ours is down here, theirs is up here.
Well, people out there are serious together.
Any other questions?
Yeah, are there any other? Go ahead.
So I just wanted to quickly say that I would particularly identify with your person, so having a specific board stand up in your house. I'm also convinced that, but actually, I mean, it's a common thing. I know a majority of my friends who have the exact same situation, but they have specific spots in the house that they can get cell phones sitting around, or they have, I went to the college several times.
In Pomeroy.
In Pomeroy.
To do homework. Wow.
school or do anything involved with it.
Yeah.
Because I would, in Broadband, as you mentioned, there's no zone or any.
No, it's frightening too. I mean, I love our county and I drive some of the backcountry roads. I don't like going by myself sometimes if it's night or whatever, because if you lose signal for miles and miles and miles and miles, and it's sparsely populated, and it's kind of frightening. Any of the public safety issues, big time. Yes, ma'am.
So what would you recommend students that are studying and maybe have never experienced the problems that come with broadband to kind of like broaden their minds and understand?
Well, it's interesting because Miriam said, how many of you use the internet today? I dare you to go one day without it. I dare you. For one day without the internet. You can't. You can't. So go try to just use your phone like Lyle. And you know, the FCC, an ill-advised idea was to lower what the standard is for broadband so that it would be okay to use mobile devices, and they would get off the hook and say, well, we got broadband everywhere, but we lowered the numbers. We made the requirements easier to meet. That didn't pass, thank goodness, that one didn't pass. But try to make it on one day on your cell phone and just walk a mile in the shoes of people in Southeast Ohio. Try not to use your cell phone. Try not to text anybody. Try not to call anybody. Try to find a landline somewhere. Pretend that landline, if you found one, you can barely hear because it's gotten rained on somewhere. Or there's a trustee out there with his duct tape and he hasn't gotten it finished yet. You see, try to walk up today in our shoes.
Are there any other questions? If Senator Smith?
Yes, that's a very good question. How can you affect change? Well, I think your proposal tonight is going to be a big step in the right direction. I think staying in touch with your congressmen and women and your senators that I'm watching, I'm listening, this issue is a bother to me. But the thing I would say that I think is very, very crucial is to keep a watchful eye on the Ohio state legislature. Because the second they try to enact a barrier law to prevent community or cooperatives or municipal type broadband systems, then we're in big trouble. And that has been enacted, as I said, in I think 21 states now, and there's various versions of these bills. So I think really the state legislation that would come out would be more detrimental to anything the federal government can do to us personally here. But watch your state legislators and stay on their backs. And let me also add that rural Ohio, up in the northwest, Auglaize County has 2 systems. Okay, so it's not just Appalachian Ohio. The rural parts of this state are all affected. And Commissioner Clyburn shared how she went to New Mexico and was on Native American lands, and their children are dropped off after school at the casino, and the casino has made a little area for them in the lobby where they do their homework, and then a cattle truck comes by about 9 o'clock and picks these children up to take them to the reservation. So our Native American populations are being shoved away with broadband and our rural areas. So watch your legislators on the state level. That's who I'm most concerned about right now. I'll go after my sweat. No, I will.
Well, thank you, Liz, for coming, and I look forward to our debate this evening about our bill supporting increased broadband access to Southeast Ohio. Up next, on our evening topic of technology, we have Ohio University's Chief Information Officer, Craig Vance.
I'm an IT person, so I'm much more understated and much less interested. But it's an So I'm the Chief Information Officer for Living. That means that I help direct the majority of the IT operations here at Ohio University. Everything from email to the much loved paid French program, to wireless, also highly loved Blackboard. There are some things outside of my purview. Those are things really at college level. But irregardless of the issue, I'm happy to try and find answers and strategies for anything technology related. So what am I hoping to talk to you guys about today? A couple of things real briefly. Mostly what I'm going to do is figure out how to move forward on some ideas. But I thought I would give you a little bit of background on what we have been doing and where we're going, and we figure out how we decide what the next steps will take together. So I've been here about 2 years now, which seems like a very long time, especially when you're working 90 hours a week. But it's actually not that long in practice. And so when I started, my first experience was 2 weeks after I got here, and we started having involved in wireless outages, where about 10% of people couldn't be on wireless for about 2 months of the industry. Experience. And many nights of sleeping in a cot in my office later, things go like that. But we've been spending a lot of time doing some things behind the scenes that I don't think are particularly topics for debate. Things like we could have better coverage and more reliable wireless, things like flat work. While none of those things are perfect, they are immensely improved. And what we are looking at now are some of the next steps. Just actually, before I jump there, an example of a couple of things that we tackled in about the last 18 months have really pertained to our internet connectivity. When I started, OU had about 1/8 the amount of bandwidth as a university. We have a lot of things from an IT perspective. And Netflix really sucked, especially anything streaming video was particularly terrible. And our strategy at the time was to say, certain kinds of internet traffic are more important than other internet traffic. I mean, some things are, academic in nature, and some things are not, or whatever. And we make some things faster than others, so that's really good. People live here, we all should have pretty open access to the internet. So that was one of the first things we did is we have a uncapped internet connection. There are sometimes locations quality or wireless where you're sitting. We do not do anything to slow down and or monitor or manage your internet connection. We just make it to the internet. After that, I heard from a lot of our community members, OU has finally got some good internet going. What do we do? Why isn't OU sharing it? And when I started, OU wouldn't let people not associated with Ohio University on our network. And so we changed that, stopped requiring registration, and introduced OU Yes Wireless, which today serves about 40,000 people a day. It makes us actually the largest provider of internet cable. A lot of people try to sit outside of our own building, and I hope that he does not love it. That's not my problem. So we've been making some incremental pieces of progress, but there are a lot of things that I'm interested in talking about what we can do next now that we're starting to shore up some of those foundations. Like some examples, and these are really not must-dos, they're just things that we've been thinking about or talking about. One is we've recently been running some pilots around reducing the costs of materials for courses. Incentivizing faculty to go to free, no-cost coding and educational resources for courses, and thinking about updating the course catalog to let you search for courses based on the cost of the materials for the course, especially a filter for free. That's a project we're really interested in getting feedback, and that's something we put forward.
We'll sponsor that.
Yeah. Exactly. We've looked at 15 courses so far. That's not a ton, but we're just kind of figuring out the process and getting ideas. Another idea we've done a pilot with about 15 courses too is something called inclusive access. And this is less exciting to me personally, but still better than the current state of things. And that is wherein you can choose to buy your course materials if your instructor uses more money course materials as part of the fee for the course. So we need additional fees that we don't have to do now. And then those materials are quite a bit cheaper than just buying them yourself. Because instead of you guys having to go out to Amazon and buy a lower price, or if I used to do like stock Amazon prices for the semester and then buy and everything sell them. But instead of having to do all that, we go out and beat up the public to better pricing. It's actually quite a bit cheaper than what you can buy or things like that. And you have to worry about this one time these things. That we did that for 15 courses and saved an average about like 40% on courses we were just a little bit easier. So that's something we're working on with valuable asset in some of those early communications. Those are things kind of like some, ideas that I haven't vetted and we haven't started talking too much about. Our ideas around things like, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like this user email addresses you get are really stupid. The numbers are actually entirely random in terms of so I would love, to think about strategies for changing it and some of the implications that you mentioned would look like. I'm very interested in issues like classroom technology and how we actually experience the technology process in the science room. Make it more interactive and maybe a little bit less people talking at you using technology. Another fun thing that I think is an interesting thing I'd love to investigate is that the number one thing that is pirated on the OU network is Game of Thrones. Very understandable, but that's a different story. The thing that I find ironic about that is that it is primarily happening in the dorms, the pirating, and it is strange to me because technically every single person in the dorm is entitled to an HBO subscription. And I would love to help pressure Time Warner Cable to subscription. There's some similar examples. Other issues we're talking about is a very dated, more than 10-year-old policy that governs the use of technology that acceptable use. We certainly never read it. I didn't even read it for my first year here. And it says, if you're going to use OU's resources, like the internet, you have all these terrible things on the internet. I find that a troubling policy related to it. It talks about what kind of content and things you should and shouldn't be doing. I am 100% not the kind of it's not a practical job for me. I do not read all of your emails. I don't read all of my emails. I try, but I'm not very successful. So we are very much interested in starting the process of revising that policy to be constant and more concerned about things we shouldn't do to disrupt other people's experience. There are other areas that I think better manage people's behavior and involvement. So those are things we're interested in conflict. A little bit further down the road, things like thinking about what my university actual ad map should look like. My argument is all the thing. When I buy my pizza at Domino's, it's like $7. And after that, it's really but I don't want to just go out and make it happen and use the population targeted audience. So we've been thinking about how can we better engage with students now that we're in place to not think things work, but also think about improving things. We have a couple of ideas. We'd really like to talk about putting together some focus groups that we people together every so often, providing food and get their opinions on ideas to be unstructured. We'd love to also figure out the connection between the Senate and the IT organization, maybe a little bit more formalized, so we can hopefully get some feedback and run some ideas through. That would be a little bit harder to present to the whole group than fortunately, but maybe with perhaps some sides, bring to the body. body as a whole. So it's really,
Oh, no, you're good. I was
Okay.
just making a signal to the president-elect that you all should coordinate together, since my turn's up.
I will be happy to answer. We have 2 minutes. Questions about anything related to or anything else related to technology.
I see Senator Rises up there.
Wireless and broadband technology on the media campuses also under leadership.
I work collaboratively with the team.
So my follow-up question is, I'm curious if maybe an area we can also look at is expanding, university here is in the city, so it's less impactful, but expanding access to our rural campuses and regional campuses to those schools that are accessible.
Yeah, that's a topic of my staff is very active about. I live 4 miles from campus. I do not have the internet. But it's like almost running cable there. But anyway, I thought about it on the drive. But something I'm proud about during the rural areas for our RG campuses is that in the last 6 months, we have upgraded all of their campuses. So those campuses themselves are very well served. They're generally points of light in communities that are less well served. And they're very good. So I think there's an area of business opportunity.
Yeah, go ahead. Commissioner Dillinger, yep.
I actually attended the regional campus. I went to one district, so the internet is compatible. But I know that a lot of the issues with the regional campuses and the internet is that it comes clear from down here.
That's correct.
So is there a way to solve that issue to make the internet, or is that what you were just saying?
Well, it does still come from down here. It's not sensible in some regards geographically speaking, but running a cable from here to there was better than trying to fix all the bad internet here. What we did to enrich the quality of the local campuses internet, we increased the bandwidth above the max. So right now, none of the regional campuses are experiencing like a congestion. There's still a slight downside, which is the fact that the cable goes from here to each regional campus. This is all I think of as similar trucks going around with the telephone pole great problem. And right before I arrived, for some reason, the telephone truck drove down the highway. I cannot understand what that strategy was and wiped out like all the fiber in Athens was trying to half of the state. We have worked to put back up to the internet as fast so that after the we will have some.
So I have a question. The policy you were referencing, is that in the administrative policy manual? And if so, do you know what the number is, just so we could? Because if we know and we know that we're a reviewer on the policy, we have more leverage in supporting an update to that.
We have a draft and we propose.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, perfect. And then Historian Paredes behind you has a question.
Hi, thank you for coming and being open to feedback as well as questions. So the recent decision on repealing net neutrality, as well as the Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal and years of private tech companies stealing information and selling it for advertisements and political gain, what can OIT, that sounds like a really big targeted question, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. What can OIT do to maintain our privacy as well as Ohio University's net neutrality?
You state that your bias for it?
Well, I think
I personally am a big advocate for net neutrality and trying to implement it in our practice. neutrality. An example of that would be we have the privilege of powering our internet above and beyond what the part of the EU from a consortium of state funds, very much like was proposed as a strategy for the consumers. It's called Broadband. In our agreement for it, we passed language stating all that we're not manipulating or changing our traffic. It's including them with transparency, so users of the internet net neutrality despite the lack of protections that the federal and state government do in America. I think it would be great if we consider either a statement or a policy rather for that process. But a statement about a net neutrality. I think those are things we can do specifically in the context of broadly speaking. I think data privacy is challenging. Everything else, everyone have to avoid something all the time as an IT person. So I have to take those not Facebook that. But so I guess that's an issue that is there.
Just as like a general follow-up, and thank you for that response, do you think that maybe OIT can work out a deal with the university and Boardnet to maybe update the current computers in all the public facilities to have like ad blockers, like Tor browsers, not really supporting like Safari and Chrome because those are very big like obstructors of your privacy? Is there any way that OU can do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes the safe computing practice. This is where we get to like small part of IT. I'm not responsible for your labs and all of those places, but it's certainly a topic that can bring it in a regular with all of the uncertainty. But I think it should be on. Yeah. Thank you.
Are there any other questions, Senator Hajibandi?
Thank you for coming. Anyways, I think you might be with. A few years ago, Wi-Fi was created. You know, Wi-Fi. Are there any? I wonder what your thoughts are on that, and will in that maybe
Sure. I think the eventual direction of networking is one in which, institutions like OU want to work and provide wireless, and ultimately we'll be in a place where cellular technologies or next generation wireless technologies can replace the methodologies we're using now. And instead of me having, 5,000 exit points or something, instead of us having 5,000, we'll have something on cell phone down, it's possible to get this kind of quality of accuracy. In terms of our trajectory there, that is kind of a step away from what we're planning for right now. Right now, we are planning to replace the network infrastructure, and that's going to do things like improve the density coverage of the wireless in the current paradigm. It's going to take the wireless from 300 megabytes a second to about 1,000. Pretty good upgrade. And it's going to increase the speed of the wire network by about 10x. That's pretty. It's a little bit protracted. When I started, I had this kind of interesting conversation where we were doing financial planning, and I said, hey, our big expenses in the next 5 years. And he said, oh, what is this one? I was like, oh, it's the new network. We got to install one of those every 6 or 7 years. And he said, oh, we didn't budget for that. And so we've been working really hard over the last few years to scope out and fund a big network upgrade. Because we're doing it ourselves, it's slowing the process a little bit. So our network will be about 10 years old by the time it's in place. There's not a lot of technology to change this. So we're going to get to that milestone, and then I think the one after is after the
Are there any other questions? I see Commissioner Miller, front row.
I really like the idea of having an ability to search the back by material costs. I was wondering, I know, I think that I did learn about it a few weeks ago, students who are athletic training and like driving like moving, education majors, certainly have students there, to the students, and I'm just a suggestion for something where if the class is going to require to use basketball, so that you have gas money, you have to think about, am I going to get a car, am I going to find expensive transportation that will be so high, so I'm going to be spending costs for classes, with tax numbers, that's
And certainly the time is back too. Yeah, one of the things I think is troubling, which we are trying to get our hands around, is the kind of all the add-on costs that are happening to courses. Like it used to just be textbooks, but now it's textbooks and some cloud servers, textbooks for the online journal, right? Or textbooks and pop back. Pop back would be a really cool one that this is not scale really well defined. Now we would have institutional included, additional costs to pop back. And so I think ideally the catalog is included cost of textbooks and the cost of materials and the explanation of those materials. Yeah. I like.
Are there any other questions? I think okay, Senator Sweeney.
I'm not sure if Blackboard is kind of in the realm
Yeah.
Is there a way to sort of, I wouldn't say force professors, but kind of start getting them to use Blackboard, because I for example have a class that brings me show on my Blackboard, and I was going to use a Google, because it's a platform. So I'm unsure, what's the strategy that goes out to streamline professors who use Blackboard and kind of succeed in that, like, I guess it's not, I guess it's guidelines for professors to use it,
Yeah, grades does have to be in mind for sure, because there's a lot of research that indicates that the success of students is tied to if your professor's not using the grade book, you're not just going to pull all your paper and take out bad and make grade and calculate where you are in the class. But so there's a lot of good reasons for that. So the question is, what are the strategies to get there? And so I would love that this worked in such a way where there's a strategy where environment functions, nor would it quite be the same university if it did function that way. So what can I do? I can do a couple of things that I'm not doing now that I think can take us back there. One is I can provide better training and support to the faculty right now. Believe it or not, if you think Blackboard is funky from a student perspective, it's way worse from a faculty perspective. They have twice as many bugs in their interface. And so one of the challenges I think we have to be honest with you right now is we do not have any training resources for those faculty. Like you're in the faculty member, you just figure out Blackboard. And then in addition to that, I think we can provide some incentives for faculty members to use things like the grade book. One that I'm really excited about doing and we're working on right now is making it so that if faculty put their grades in the grade book in Blackboard, it will automatically submit the grades to them at the end of the semester. And you may not know this, but it is a funky process for faculty to submit their grades. Right now, they copy them out of Blackboard in another system. This would eliminate that step. Kind of, hey, you go your grades in anyway, you might as well do it in Blackboard. And then finally, I think figuring out strategies to look at parent faculty, what the students care about in terms of use of Blackboard is really important. So I've been thinking about, can we put together kind of like best practices or best standards, right, for use of Blackboard that really possibly have to voice that credential. I think that carries a lot more weight than just what the ICP would say. And those courses don't have disciplinary experience.
And on to that, Senator Juni, Vice President Schneider, Commissioner Timko have met with Joe McLaughlin, the Faculty Senate Chair, and we have talked extensively about Blackboard and things like that. So I think we're going to close out, and I appreciate Craig coming, and thank you. So we'll move on in our agenda. Are there any announcements? We'll start on this side of the room. Seeing none, any announcements on this side of the room? Oh, you did? Senator Feeney?
Center for Student Legal Services, I don't know if you guys know that is their application for board members are open. They've been shared on the Senate Instagram, but I can send out the information when we become a board member.
Thank you. Women's Affairs Commissioner Burke?
Yeah, so today there's a bunch of Take Back the Night programming events, but tomorrow is the March and Rally. So it'll start at Baker Ballroom. At 7 p.m. there'll be speakers. That'll go for about an hour, and then the march starts at 8. So if you could only make one or the other, then you're obviously.
Thank you, Vice President-elect. Historian Perez.
I know I blasted in all the chats, so excuse me and I'm sorry. But starting next week on the 9th is going to be the Athens International Film Festival, and it's the 45th one. And it's really exciting because it's free for students if you bring your ID. And usually from the 9th to the 15th, it starts around like 1 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock on one day, and ends around 6 or 9. And there's a bunch of speakers throughout the week. It's free. You can support international and independent artists, and it's just a cool event.
Thank you.
At the Athena Cinema.
Senator Rice, speaking of international artists,
hey.
This weekend is the International Street Fair. I announced it last week. Consider this your reminder. It's from 11 to 5. The weather is not supposed to be great, but I hope to see you guys there anyway because there's going to be tons of tables and cool stuff. All this week is ISD's International Week. I hope you saw the flags when you stop by an event. There's some more tomorrow. Look the schedule up on Facebook. There are lots of events. Great, thank you. Thank you. Also, I announced this last week, and I put it in the Slack, and I do so again. But this Saturday, from 1 to 3, we have Neil Lindish coming, the voting rights expert. Liz Shaw over there is actually one of the people who arranged for a visit and the event, and it's all about the ins and outs of voter registration. And then that following Saturday, we have Amanda Lynch from the Ohio Coalition Against Gun Violence coming to talk to Coffee at 10:30 in the morning. Put them in the Slack last week. I'll put them in the Slack again. Thank you. Senator Hashimati.
Speaking of voting, registration, April 9th is the last day to vote for the May primary, since we have 2 high schoolers to do it. If you know anyone that's 17, that's going to be 18 by the November election. They are also going to go to register to vote. So just for Canada's own baseline.
Is it the last day for voting or the last day for registration?
Last day to register.
Not today.
It's not today. It's next.
Cool. Just, I thought I heard vote. Okay.
And we have registration forms in the Senate office. Are there any other announcements? Minority Affairs Commissioner.
This is my semi-regular delivery coworker. Have fun with your lunch this weekend. But please remember that your cab drivers, your waitresses, your hotel workers are working really, really hard. Tip them nicely and don't yell at them when they mess up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements this evening? Seeing none, we'll move forward.
What?
To additions to the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move to have resolution 17, 18,
Discussion? Vice President Schneider, is this your resolution?
Yes.
What is it about?
It's a resolution to appoint members to the Broadband committee.
It's been moved. Is there any other discussion on this added resolution?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to vote on this, add this agenda, to add this resolution to the agenda. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The resolution is adopted, not adopted, but added to the agenda. Are there any other additions to the agenda? I have debate rules. I motion that all appointment resolutions have debate rules of 5 minutes. All budget resolutions have debate rules for 5 minutes. And all bills have a debate rules for 15 minutes. And on the bills, I would ask that sponsors speak for 2 minutes. That will not count towards the 15 minutes. And that all non-sponsors speak for a minute and direct responses are 30 seconds. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded to approve those special debate rules. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The debate rules are adopted. Are there any other additions to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Do I have a motion?
Move to adopt the previous minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to vote on the previous meeting minutes. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are adopted. We have no old business this evening. Our first order of new business, I'm trying to recall First order of business is Senate Bill 171821, a bill to demand stricter restrictions for access and purchase of firearms in the state of Ohio. Whereas an assault
Second.
Primary sponsor Senator Zimmerman.
This bill essentially advocates for the complete ban of R-15 with tougher restrictions on all firearms. Individuals lose their lives within firearms every single day in a nation that is somehow going to accept this disgraceful and violent epidemic and then don't believe that we should be complicit. There are several solutions that we can petition our legislatures on in order to ensure that crimes of tragedy don't continually happen. The generation has been on the school massacres. Let's make sure the next generation doesn't suffer in the same way. I really encourage everyone to pass this bill. I reserve the balance of my time.
Next up, we have Senator Ryden.
Senator Zimmerman said it well. When we look at gun violence in the United States compared to gun violence in all other nations, the one constant is that you have vastly more firearms, more available than any other country. And there are debates that can be had about what policy is most effective, but all of that is below that one factor that rises above, which is just there's so many more of them. And so we were really careful and cautious when we sat down to meet last week. How do we not overstep? How do we take into account what people are looking for in the protection of the Second Amendment, and get how do we reduce deaths to gun violence, not just mass shootings, but gun violence in cities and suicides of youths, right? Like firearms make damage a lot more feasible and attainable for a lot of people. And so that's what we discussed. And our conclusion was we asked for some very simple things. We do think that, yes, an assault rifle is a term that can be debated, but it's also a term that has come to mean a certain thing about semi-automatic weapons. And there is a general consensus for what they mean, for what that means. Even if you can debate it. We would like a federal one, but we're asking for a statewide thing. We also want how we access guns to be more heavily regulated through background checks. And that should go without saying, we think, but there are estimates that about 40% of gun sales minimum occur without background checks. And we'd like the legislature to consider that too. We think this is a very reasonable bill, and we hope that we pass it.
Thank you. Senator and Commissioner Miller.
I would like to echo
what both my fellow sponsors so far have said. And I would like to really, really emphasize that the restrictions that we're asking for in here are common sense, and it's common sense that if a man is named to his wife or his child, he shouldn't be able to buy a gun. I think if we look at statistics, there's a 500% increase in the chance there will be a homicide and an incident of domestic violence if a firearm is present. So that's just one example of a very common sense thing that I think we can do to reduce gun violence, and that's what we ask for with these rating background checks. And all of the restrictions in there are very practical, I think, and that's the point that the Second Amendment does exist, and we're not advocating for anything about banning that, but we are advocating for protecting the U.S. citizens, and I think that really should be our priority, and I reserve that.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Senator Miller.
Yeah, so I'm going to echo everything that my fellow sponsors have said. I don't think this comes down to right. It comes down to individuals. I love our Constitution a lot. I can recite the preamble. I will do it. And I just think it's common sense. We're not asking you to like throw them away. We're just saying like maybe you consider who gets them. I really do that.
Thank you, Senator Miller. Vice President Schneider.
I agree with the senators and commissioners that spoke before me. Again, like Senator Miller said, this isn't taking the constitutional right away at all. This is just making some adjustments in order to save lives. I'd also like to point out that there was a ban on federal assault weapons in the 90s that went through to 2004, and under that time there were not as many mass school shootings as we see today. I really think that's
Thank you. Senator Soto Diaz.
So I echo what almost officers have said so far. As the emerging generation, I do believe that we need to make sure that that all the future generations are safe, especially not just in schools or the surroundings. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's a shooting in YouTube, which is a huge organization. So this is no longer just a school thing. This is just a social thing, a nationwide thing. So yeah, we just can't allow school shootings to become the new normal. So, our safe vaccine.
Thank you. Commissioner Gray.
I feel like this is such a very sensible response to I don't think anything brings to the constitutional.
Thank you. And I'll open up the floor to debate now, and we'll start the clock for 15 minutes. And I have a taking my president's hat off until we eventually pass this bill. I'll say I'm in full support of it, but for the president hat back on, I do have friendly amendments. My first one would be the correct spelling to Senator Soto Diaz's name, for the record, on the bill itself. So that is my first friendly amendment. And the sponsors agree with that friendly amendment. And do I have a motion? All those in favor of that friendly amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? One abstention. So let the record reflect that Senator Soto Diaz's name will be friendly amendment. And if anyone wants to vote, you must do so with friendly amendment. The other one would be just consistent with how we do our bills. The first, we should have a first whereas clause that says the Ohio University Student Senate is an elected assembly meant to represent the rights of our fellow students. That is consistent with bill language, and that's an error on my part, not dealing with the primary sponsors ahead of time. But do the sponsors agree with that language at the beginning of the bill? Okay. All those in favor of that all those in favor of that friendly amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? And would the assistant chief of staff reflect that in the minutes? On the same resolution, and this might be a debate, but line 41 through 43 says the Ohio University does not allow concealed carries on its campus, and after students voted against the Board of Trustees' decision. That is incorrect. The board never had a discussion about concealed carry. The language could say, after Ohio University does not allow concealed carry on its campuses. I wouldn't maybe say after the students, but after the students voted against our referendum. Because the question was put forward asking should we have concealed carry on campus, and overwhelmingly students said no. But the board never discussed this, and I can pull up meeting minutes, but they never talked about this at all because they didn't have to, because they agreed that our policy should stay as is, and that it is do not allow concealed carry on campus. So I would ask that it be reworded to say, instead of Board of Trustees, Student Senate referendum, the 2016 school year. Is there any discussion on that? And my time is up after this, and I don't have any other time amendments. Is there discussion?
It's related to this. It's a point of information. Isn't it correct though that veterans and military members are allowed to carry concealed weapons?
I'm not 100% sure, but I guess that's probably federal law. But I can't answer that question. Is there any discussion on that friendly amendment? Are the sponsors fine with the changing the wording from saying Board of Trustees to saying the Student Senate referendum held in the spring of 2017? Sponsors?
We're having a bit of a discussion in our talking about it.
Okay.
Apparently this was pulled from the line of police and we're trying to figure out exactly.
Okay, we'll save that till the end of the grade and we'll come back to it and hopefully it can get addressed. But other than that, I reserve the time I do not have left. Is there any discussion on this this bill? Chief of Staff Schlosser?
Just looking at the end of the bill, who we'll be sending to, I'm proposing a friendly amendment to add Dr. Pina and Dr. Mulder, which is because it's in our R&D, they send it to them. You all agree? Right. I also suggest that we send it to the state Senate planning.
So there's a motion on the floor to add a friendly amendment to add the bill to the following, the additional individuals, State Senator Hoagland, and per our rules and procedures, Dean of Students Jenny Hall Jones and Vice President of Student Affairs Dr. Jason Pina. Do the sponsors of this bill agree to add that language? Seeing head nods, all those in favor of the friendly amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The friendly amendment is adopted. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Senator Hudgebani.
I would also like to make an amendment there as well to add the U.S. representative to this district. I think it's three sided. Oh, he is on that?
No, he's not on here.
No. So yeah, I would like to.
I don't think we need to vote on that. We'll just include the previous friendly amendment since it's adding individuals. Any other discussion? Yes, Senator Plotz.
So I've got a document here, one was Washington actually, and it says that a well-regulated militia may be necessary to the security of the free state. The right that people keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed being pretty important there. And I think that restricting the purchase of firearms does. In addition to that, there are a good many of kind of contradictions and little things that need to be addressed in this bill. For example, an assault weapon, the semi-automatic firearms fixed magazine, the AR-15 doesn't even fit that definition. By this definition of assault weapon, an AR-15 is not one. So there's that, and also we mentioned later in 22, line 22, talking about District of Columbia versus Heller, which says that the Second Amendment does not apply to all U.S. citizens, but that common sense restrictions may be necessary. That's not true. The Second Amendment applies to all U.S. citizens unless they have a felony on their record or domestic abuse, so violent misdemeanor, in which case we think it's taken place. Which it also says later in line 52 for the Brady background check system, saying that there's a loophole for felons and domestic abusers
and fugitives purchase guns, and then gun shows, which are all wrong. There's no loophole for, especially the guns and domestic users. The Brady background check system with NICS and ICS are being strengthened. Not all states comply fully with it, so that's something that I could support completely. But with everything else in here, it's just proceeding the way it is.
Thank you. I'm sensing there are some direct responses, and I will first start with Commissioner Miller, and I remind you it's a 30-second
Yeah.
direct response.
Just a quick thing. So you are very correct in saying that when one has been convicted of a violent crime, it is illegal. However, the evidence bears out that it's when you're accused of a violent crime that I'm sorry, I'm going to give you through all my chapter and I'm finding that it's not when you're convicted, it is when you are accused of a violent crime that all of those risks go up. And it has been long before past the changes to when you were accused, you are no longer allowed to buy a firearm, and that was shot down from semi-intended. But while I do recognize that it's the accused.
You may directly respond. Okay.
I believe the reason for that is we wait until conviction because we don't until proven guilty here. So we cannot put restrictions on somebody who's just accused. We have to wait until it's convicted.
But in this case, we're waiting until people are dead, and that's something that we can't do.
Is that it? No, you're fine. Moving on, is there anyone else that would like to directly respond to Senator Fox, historian Grace?
I do understand where both of you are coming from, but how far do we have to go when we stop preventing crimes from happening, that tens of people die and hundreds are hurt and things like Las Vegas and Parkland happen? How far will the government go not to prevent those tragedies from happening because we're afraid of a tyrannical government taking away our gun rights? And I have quotes lined up for when I do have time to speak, but I'm just saying we're a country that should prevent tragedies to citizens.
I respect, I'm following everything. I love you all. Sorry. But is there anyone else that would like to directly respond to Senator Fox or what historian Grace has said? Senator Miller.
I would just like to point out that the Second Amendment hasn't always meant to own guns. It wasn't until like the 60s and 70s that was an interpretation that was led by the Black Panther movement. And while armed militia is not like you and I, with like trained people like military, just on that point of information out there.
Thank you, Senator Miller. I see a direct response, but one thing, we do have 5 minutes left on the debate, but I've added 2 minutes since I did go over the allotted time. And I apologize for that. Senator Fox, you may directly respond.
I'll speak to it in just a minute to save us some time. So George Mason, who wrote his co-author of the Second Amendment, he said, I ask, who are the militia? They consist now of the whole people, except a few public officers. And then Thomas Jefferson said, what country can preserve its liberties if their rulers are not warned from time to time that they preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take one. I just really like that one. And then going back to over here, 79% of gun crimes are committed with crimes that are illegally possessed. So I think that making more guns illegal is just going to make that number go up. Like, people aren't going to stop killing. And also killing.
Are there any more direct responses to the original point made by Senator Fox? Commissioner Free?
Yeah, direct response. I just said we're kind of debating like little behind the application, which isn't going to be on 15 minutes. A little, favorable in I'm not an advocate for frequent changing the laws and constitution. The laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of human life. As we can be more developed, more learning, and new discoveries new truths discovered in management and truths now are bad deaths. I mean, a lot of deaths. I think what we're proposing is very common sense. Nothing's being infringed on constitutionally.
Anyone else wishing to directly respond? Senator Geary.
Thank you. So in 110% respect of you knowingly not having a popular opinion, instead of coming out and saying that, I would say that this was sent out on Monday, and I know that you might not have had time to go through it, but as someone who has publicly said
that you feel this is an issue and background check should be stronger or something like that line, then if you and Zach and the other primary sponsors have common ground, I just wish you would have met up with them to address some of these, because you're right, you're not wrong in a lot of your like actual points. So that could have maybe defined common ground.
Any other direct responses? Seeing none, we'll move forward to the staff that I have. Does Historian Verdes have a 2-minute comment you would like to make?
Yes, a 2-minute or 1 minute?
1 minute, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah. So my first quick comment is that if you want an AR-15, a grenade launcher, which is allowed to be purchased in the United States, you can buy tanks, you can buy fighter jets. If you want military-grade weapons, if you want bump stocks, join the military, join a militia. Do something to serve your country instead of saying that it's infringing your right. If you need more than a hunting rifle or a shotgun to hunt a deer, then you're doing something wrong in the woods. Because all you should need is just a hunting rifle. I have a quote for the rest of my time. James Madison said that the right to bear arms shall not be infringed, since a well-regulated militia is the best security of our country. The Second Amendment is meant to pay for a well-regulated militia and not a standing army. The militia is a group of people, citizens, to defend the government from people overturning the government, as well as people trying to prevent the government from overturning their rights. Join a militia. I reserve the balance of my time.
Thank you, Historian Verdes. I have a direct response from Senator Blunt.
Samuel Adams.
Let him speak, let him speak.
Hashtag more quotes.
I'll reset the senator's time.
Samuel Adams, not the Constitution shall never be construed to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own arms. That's at the Massachusetts ratifying of 1788. The Second Amendment isn't about having a big enough gun to hunt to. It's about making sure our government can't turn on us and take away our First Amendment rights and any other rights in the Constitution from us.
Thank you. Are there any direct responses to that line of topic? Seeing yes. Sorry.
Spot on.
Welcome.
They didn't give me one of those cool plaques.
Yeah, sorry. Dr. John.
At John.
But I just wanted to say that all the people that we're quoting, like if you had gone back and asked any of them what an AR-15 was, none of them would know what that is. And what that tells us is that times have changed so much that the direct letter of the Constitution, like even if the Second Amendment specifically said that people should have all guns, which it doesn't say, that still shouldn't apply, 300 years down the line.
He reserves the balance of his time. Is that a direct response, Senator Fox?
Yes, sir. I'm talking about it.
You're fine.
But let's look at a couple of guns that they actually had at the time. There was the Belton flintlock built during the Revolutionary War. You could fire about 20 rounds in 5 seconds. That's a lot. Or the Jerome Doty air rifle, which added half the magazine could fire 22 shots within 30 seconds. And Thomas Jefferson actually bought some of these and moved it for percent loaded. Or the pump gun, which is basically a revolver, but a cannon revolver. That's just really what I like. Or the pepper box, which was pretty much an early revolver, instead of having.
Moving on to the list, Commissioner Frake, do you have a Senator Zimmerman? Do you want to directly respond? Please proceed.
This is not about killing people or looking at firearms for defense. This is about saving people. My cousin was a victim in Parkland, Africa, and each of those victims will be with us today looking at common sense gun legislation.
Thank you, Senator Zimmerman. Moving on to this Slack, Commissioner Frake. Thank you. Senator Hojabagi.
First off, how much time do we have?
1 minute.
Move to add 15 minutes.
Whoa.
If there, I would recommend, since there's a minute left, if there's not, the debate should continue with things that we have not talked about already. Quotes, stack channel, Slack. Sorry. But I would move that we add 5 minutes.
Second.
All those in favor of 5 minutes being added to the debate, please. All those opposed? Abstentions? 5 minutes. Senator Hajbandi, you have a minute.
Thank you. Look, we've had so many people die from Cincinnati Hook, Parkland, Las Vegas, you name it, and nothing's been done. Okay, I live in a conservative county. I still have some conservative views, but here's the thing though. Most Republicans want gun control, so do a lot of Democrats as well, and so do most of this country. If we cannot pass common sense gun reform, like allowing mental background checks, mental health screenings, then what kind of a country are we in that we allow people to buy any type of weapon and just shoot at random? And honestly, enough is enough. Let's stop doing that.
Senator Fox, you may directly respond.
We already have mental health screening. It's true, like we need to fix the state beforehand, but we do already have that.
Thank you.
You're right.
Yes.
Yeah, we do, but it's not really well done, is it? And if it had been well done, then the person who shot those kids at Parkland wouldn't have been able to get it done.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller, I have you down. Okay. Senator Smith.
Yeah, so I feel like we're famous every day in the State House, plus we're in the State Senate. So I kind of extend the debate that I tried to choose last week. Obviously, it seems like there is support within the body to take more stances on the public policy based on the motion last week and the two bills we have here. I think we need to be more conscious of how impactful we can be with this sort of work, because obviously a ton of work is coming. And these are all very important issues, but we need to be aware of how sensitive we can be. And if we consider who we're sending this to, I don't see how it's very relevant, like sending it to the administrators in the school. Last year, with President Crowder and the Military Commission, I lobbied Senator Oakland and Representative Edwards. And honestly, if they even do this, like, I think we don't care. We're saying to the Democrats, please say those too. They already do all this stuff. It might help us all sleep better at night to like pass these sorts of things. And I think it's good. I think we have a voice on it. We need to consider this.
Thank you. Commissioner Frey would like to directly respond.
I mentioned it last week that everything that we do is with our voice. Our job is to advocate for our constituents, and that's what we're doing. This bill, and frankly, every bill that we post is like and I think it is our duty to take steps on this. So it doesn't just help us sleep at night, it helps us to get our voices on this.
You may directly respond.
Okay. I want to say this in my interest. I do think if we are going to do this more on public policy issues, we need to be kind to like hosting bigger forums for events and bringing speakers and doing a bigger program. I think that someone is trying to document to speak on this. I don't see why we can't do something like, I know they have those science talks in funding, like maybe science and funding, where we pay first 30, 50 people to be talking about topics about these issues, or we present something like how we presented us earlier on these sorts of public policy things, but we can't do should be practiced.
And I totally agree, and I think that's definitely a reform that can come out and be put in rules and procedures for primary responsibility bills. On my list, I have Senator Healy.
Kind of did what everyone said, but sort of linking Senator Smith's point and linking Senator one point. So first, I think it's important for us to talk about it because this is essentially the practice. Because the victims of gun violence have been students to pass, so like let's not forget about that. To sort of respond to Senator Bond's points about mental health, yes, it's there, but it's not really done. Kind of like advising the school, it's there, but it's not that great. So, we need to improve our mental health screening before anything. I was simply saying a blanket statement of it's there and it exists. It's quite frankly. But to link this back to Senate, why don't
clearly there's a middle ground across you, across Senator Riley, across myself, across Senator Miller. Why not? I'm not suggesting tabling this. I think it's great to pass this because it is a very comprehensive bill that has taken a lot of time.
That's the end of our allotted time for debate. If I hear a motion, we'll do anything depending on what that motion says. Hold on. Senator Rises, you have to be called on for motion.
Thank you. I'd like to follow up on your previous discussion with Emily to my
Okay.
We were discussing it. I can't find exactly that point. You were correct that it never gets voted on it unless it's from our representative here this evening. And so we'd like to accept the friendly amendment to change the text to more accurate reflect. You can put the correct text out to 5 as well.
Okay, all those in favor of the added friendly amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The friendly amendment is adopted. I heard a motion over here from, who was it? Commissioner Frayne was the motion. It's been moved and seconded to vote with friendly amendment. All those in favor of Senate Bill 1718-21, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Let the record reflect there are 2 abstentions. Let the record reflect that there are high, please. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. 6 abstentions. The bill passes. Senate Bill 1718-22. There we go. A bill to demand broadband extension project for Southeast Ohio. Whereas,
Move to suspend the rules.
Bill, primary sponsor Senator Rises.
Hi everyone. Contentious bill before, hopefully less contentious bill now. I knew that I could not do a good job or an adequate job reflecting the extent to which Southeast Ohio needs access to broadband. But I do know that in the 3 years that I've spent here, I've maybe more than many students been able to get out of the Athens bubble and into the surrounding Southeast Ohio community. And as somebody who's passionate about economic and community development, this is something that just keeps coming up. Not just with Liz, but everywhere you meet, everywhere you go, small business owners are like, I can't do anything because there is no broadband. And this is something that we can really do. We can show support for the constituents of Southeast Ohio, the constituents of Athens, Ohio, and students everywhere who are working hard to just, do their homework so that they can succeed in the modern world. I hope that Liz and the other students who are here to speak are able to really enlighten you as to how big of an issue this is. And I think speaking to Parker's point, we'll be able to show our elected representatives that this is something we know about and attention to and like to see as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Miller.
Yeah, so really quick, I have 2 friendly amendments, or 1 friendly amendment. I would like to add that this bill be sent to Senator Frank Copeland, Representative Steve Stiver, Dr. Louis Medina, and Dr. Jenny Hall Jones. Second.
All those in co-sponsors agree? I agree. All those in favor of the friendly amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Friendly amendment is adopted. Please vote. Motion to vote with friendly amendment.
Yeah, so just continuing with the time I have left. So I'm sure many of you know that I'm from the area. I'm from Perry County, which alarmingly has, I think, 23 or 27% access to broadband. That is a very real reality for me. I did not have access to the internet at all growing up. For a short period of time, we had dial-up, while all my friends had high-speed Wi-Fi, and getting on MySpace with dial-up was free. And so I just want to say, when I came to college and I had access to the internet every single day, I was able to learn more about the world around me. I wasn't as closed off. I got to hear different opinions, and it really helped me grow as a human and find my purpose. So when they were talking about standing on that board to get that one more little bar of service, that was me every single day on my little phone. I mean, it's a very real thing, and I know that many of you in this room are from one of the big 3 Cs, and that's awesome, or you're from the area, and that's great. But for so many counties in Ohio, broadband is just not a thing, and it's just super detrimental to the way that we're developing. And if you live in a major city, the amount of things you have access to because you can get on the internet and you can call on your phone is insane. So just, I really need to emphasize how important this is if we're trying to make sure that we're the best possible. Everyone's down.
Thank you. Regional Campus Commissioner Finley.
Okay, so I have a couple statements just from some of the senators who are in that commission. Brooke Robinson, she lives in Harrison County, which is the county that had 15%. So she actually talked about how she used to live in an area where she could not get internet. 10 feet out the driveway, they could have internet, but in her house, she could not have internet. So that's a huge issue, and it had a huge impact on her career, her academic career. She couldn't complete her online homework, she couldn't write her papers. So it has a huge impact on our peers, not just people who live in the area, but people who are trying to learn and who are trying to get their education right along with us. Also, Josh Doudna, he is a member of Morgan County, and in that county, the internet's expensive if you can even get it. So it's a huge issue that definitely needs to be addressed. I really down there.
Thank you. And then another sponsor is myself. And I echo everything the other sponsors before me said, and I would just highlight the importance of broadband access to higher education. I know we've talked a lot about K through 12 support. I think it's really important for everyone to understand that this would potentially, with the expansion of broadband access, this could increase enrollment in e-learning, where Ohio University is a very big player in the area for e-learning. It would create good priorities for students in the area to do online classes. And as we know, it connects people with the things that we hold dear to our democracy, and everyone can be an engaged citizen, a global citizen. And I do have a friendly amendment as well. It's just consistent with bill language, adding the first whereas clause to say the Senate is an elected assembly. Same knowledge, same language from before. So do I have a motion to sponsors? All those in favor of the friendly amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The friendly amendment is added. And then I have an additional one to say, it would be our first resolve clause. It would say the Ohio University Student Senate supports the work of Liz Shaw and her insert affiliated entity to say broadband expansion projects in Southeast Ohio in order to protect not only our students, but all Ohioans. That is consistent with language we had in our bills supporting other pieces that have gone to the House about House bills. This isn't specifically a House bill that we're supporting, but we are supporting a member of the community that does good work. And I think that that language should be added to the bill. And do the sponsors agree? Okay. Yeah, perfect. And I'll make sure that I'll definitely put in that language in the Slack. So I'm done with my time, but there is a motion. So all those in favor of the friendly amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The friendly amendment is added. And now to the 15 minutes on the clock. Is there any discussion? Senator Hushabani.
I move to friendly amend that U.S. Representative Bill Johnson of Ohio 6th District is added as he represents most of this area and is neglected to mention.
Do the sponsors of this bill agree?
Do it.
Yeah. Agree. All those in favor of the friendly amendment, please raise your hand. All opposed? Abstention? The friendly amendment is adopted. Is there any other discussion on this resolution? Treasurer Woods has motioned to vote. Is there a second? All those in favor of Senate Bill 1718-22, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The bill passes. Moving on to Senate Resolution 159, a resolution to purchase information pamphlets. Whereas the Ohio University primary sponsor, Chairperson Ayers, I did not see her here this evening because she had a proxy. She did not. So we'll move on to Vice Chairperson Hipwell. Okay, Commissioner Burke, go ahead.
So this is something that the commission, actually, this was something that the commission had worked on last year, and it didn't end up happening. And it's actually something I talked about in my interview.
And this is about these pamphlets for what?
Yeah, so, yeah, I'll explain it a little bit. So these are, we went to all the major health clinics, health providers in Athens, and asked them to answer a survey about sexual health. And so then we compiled all the information, and Clancy and Thomas made a beautiful pamphlet for us that we want to distribute for educational purposes so that everyone knows where and kind of like what the prices are generally about their sexual health. And I'll yield to Senator Thomas to share.
The one is I need to do research on my work and and it's like how to do this sort of side by side with comparing all of their the services that they provide. It's sort of really great and like everyone's so helpful that I'm actually doing it. It's really worthwhile. So it's just about.
Thank you. Is there any debate on this resolution? Commissioner Evans.
Oh, that's something I talked about too. So, yeah.
Not even all these
That's one other thing we worked with the CIC on this in College of that's kind of why they're saying stuff. We were working with them and nothing really happened. But yeah, so we also have like the blessing of Power Down, which works on with sexual health at Ohio.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on this resolution? It's been moved and seconded to vote on resolution 17-159. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? The resolution is approved. Senate Resolution 17-160, a resolution to appoint members to the Bobcat Medal Committee. Whereas the standing committee, primary sponsor, the Honorable Vice President.
Thank you. So we have to put together a committee to choose who gets the Bobcat Medal Award. And so in our rules and procedures, I chair the committee and it's 5 to 7 members. And so those members this year are going to be Lonnie Evans, Nick Paredes, Eleanor Holbrook, Maddie Slow, Justin Kelly, Parker Smith, and Alicia Lundy Morris. And so we're just going to meet once. We will figure out who wins the award, and that will be our whole thing. I reserve the balance of my time.
Discussion? I have a question.
Yeah.
What exactly is this Bobcat Medal, and how do I nominate people for the award?
This is great because we've definitely talked about it in general body meetings. So what it is, it's an award for somebody who's kind of gone above and beyond. It can be a student, it can also be faculty members, somebody in the administration, or an alumni. So pretty much anybody with ties to Ohio University. You can vote, you can nominate them online. There is an ORCIG application that went live, I think, after last week's meeting. So if we did talk about it before then, we could click on the application, and that's not bad. But it's up there now, so you can go ahead and do that. I think you're able to nominate as many people as you want. So if you have a lot of people that you think are great, go ahead and do that. And yeah, and then we will be the ones to review the application and say I didn't think we did this year. Past winners have been Dr. Scudder won last year.
That was one before. We didn't award this award last year. It was Janine Hacker 2 years ago. She works in housing. Dr. Scudder did win, and we have spotty records on who else has won it, but I've heard former President Payne. Okay. Is there any other debate on this resolution? It's been moved and seconded to vote on resolution 1718-160. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Abstentions? Let the record reflect there are 3 abstentions, and the resolution is adopted. Moving on to our agenda. Looking at the time. Are there any commissions that would like to give a report? If not, yes, Black Affairs Commissioner Evans.
I would like to let everyone know that there's going to be an event on April 3rd. A higher commission first graduation every time school is kind of our So, what do you know about that?
Yes, proxying Commissioner for Environmental Affairs.
So I report on behalf of Toronto Environmental Justice Committee. I apologize for not being present tonight. I am currently at one of ESPA's events. Sustainable film series showing a film Await a Dream from Spinning Rock. Thank you to those who helped me with the local food fair this morning. There is one more event, which is tomorrow night at 6 p.m. in the Oakland Road. There will be free pizza and dessert for take-back tonight. So you can
Thank you. Are there any other commission reports? Seeing none, we'll move forward. We will skip that. Skip that. Skip that. Myself, I would like to first congratulate President-elect Madison Sloat. Yeah, Zach just said it. So, Vice President-elect Hannah Burke. And Treasurer-elect Lydia Ramos. She is not here, but you can clap for that. Yes, Zach. Congratulations. The official transition will start on Monday, so we'll be on the grind moving Senate forward for next academic year. With that being said, you will be seeing some resolutions. You might be seeing some resolutions come forward, and they will use their titles as elects if they do so, and they're allowed to do that. That's been a historical precedent that's been set before. Additionally, we have one more open forum for provost candidate. That is Friday. Let me pull up my calendar. It is the public open forum is 3 p.m. Walter Rotunda, and then the private session with Student Senate is at 1. It's from 1 to 1:45. If you can come, please let me know. So I know who will be there. That is our last candidate. And yeah, additional reports. It was supposed to be at 7 a.m., but yeah, it was supposed to be at 7. Yeah, 1 to 1:45. I'll re-put it in the Slack because I don't think I said that. I don't have any more report. Sorry.
Just a quick note, something I mentioned last week too, to make sure that we're all being respectful. I know that Senator Fox was one person speaking against kind of the whole crowd, but he was the only person that wasn't yelling or sighing or laughing or rolling his eyes. And I think that that's something we should all notice and reflect on. that even though a lot of us were the majority vote, we weren't being the kindest vote. So just keep that in mind, the way that you're acting with people that are saying something different than you're speaking. And then I report.
Thank you. Treasurer Wood.
Pretty few things tonight. So next Tuesday, the executive and Todd will be meeting with Dusty Kilgore and Heather Wilcox, who is the executive director of Baker and the director of operations in Baker. And we are going to be meeting within the office and looking at what we can do with this repair. So I've talked in the past couple of weeks that we will have a surplus of money left over, and that's what we will be doing with it. So things that I need from commissioners, senators, anyone, I have 3 things listed that I can think off the top of my head right now. Skulls and chorus for graduation, the Bobcat medal, and final stuff. If there's anything else that you need, I need you to tell me now because I have to get all the budget stuff up together and ready. April 25th may be our last meeting, but our last meeting for funding is next week. So if you have any budgets you need to get through, they have to be through by Friday. They have to be submitted by Friday at 5 p.m. Anytime after next Wednesday, all money from all discretionaries, no matter what our mandated, from all discretionary from everything will be moved to my discretionary so that there will be spent on office updates and stuff. Again, if you have any ideas or things that you think the office needs, please let me know and I will add that to the list and on the trustee. I believe that is all and going to the numbers. So in the Senate total, we have $19,752.19 allocated but not yet spent. There's $14,004.07 not allocated nor spent. $5,747.49. In SAC total, we have $203.60. Spot $68.48. And you thought we have $135.12. Those numbers are true and accurate to the best of my knowledge. And before I forget, happy birthday to your parents.
Woo! I'm sorry, I do have one more thing that's quick. I knew I forgot it. GSS last night brought up a resolution, and some of you might remember it was mentioned in December to say that the resolution is long, but one of the lines is saying that Student Senate should no longer be the official voice for graduate students. I will be forming a response to that. For those who want to also join me to go to their meeting in 2 weeks for an official response. A lot was said by GSS last night that was incorrect, and they did not reach out to us. And I'll publicly say it, we share an office. It's not that hard to talk with us about things. So I will put something in the Slack about a little meetup group because we probably need to also have a bill to say something as well. But yeah, I won't say it's a threat to the shared governance structure, but it is a thing in the shared governance structure for a university. And sorry, that's it. That's all I have. Hi. Oh, Chuck, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Senator Emeritus and Senior Vice Committee, we are meeting tomorrow. We'll be purchasing skulls for the recipients of the Senator Emeritus Award and graduating individuals who hold that award. So if you know anybody who has the award, Senator Emeritus already, you can buy a skull for them.
Moving on. What's your report, Mirage?
I actually do have a report. Okay, so this is from Matt Thomas, who's the executive justice on that. And he says, High University Voter Act Club, which is, I just want to do that, that was the last it's a Rotary Action Club. Basically, it's like community service based. They're hosting a charity game tomorrow from 6 to 9 and soon over 4:50 to benefit CASA, an org that provides support to local children who have experienced abuse and neglect. And there will be board games, painting, video games, card games, and a raffle. The event is free, but we are accepting donations and we're not engaged with the staff at any time.
Okay, perfect. Dr. Hall Jones is not with us this evening. Our graduate assistant.
So before I start, I want to formally congratulate Treasurer Olafamo over there. Just wanted to do that. The only thing I have is just the climate check-in survey. Please continue to take that if you have it and encourage others to take it. There's a hashtag that is used. I don't necessarily know if that's really effective, but I guess treated if you
What's the hashtag?
hashtag take the survey. Really original. Other than that, make sure that y'all are getting ready for the end of the semester. We're a week 12, right? Yeah. Seniors, so that's the end, sorry. But other than that, yeah, no Bobcats.
Bobcats.
Do I hear a motion? It is, all those in favor of adjournment, please raise your hand. All those opposed? We are adjourned.
Division!
It's happening.
Alex, I'll see you. Todd, how you doing?
I'm well, Cam. How are you?